Time to take a look at the Ebdanians, and for the Ebdanians I have... Listen to this. Beautiful. Blademaster put a link up to a Swedish guy called Windswept, which means windswept, in one of his videos. Now I didn't get a chance to listen to the music because there was an issue with the video. After the commercial played, I couldn't watch it, and I don't know why. However, I took a look at his channel, and he has some really awesome music that I thought would fit well with the review of the Celts, and I might use it for other things as well. So, the Ebdanians have the Nordic Copycat General and the Celtic Noble Copycat General, slightly better by virtue of being a DLC unit. At least the Celtic Nobles are. Then we have the Kings Fiona, and this unit is very, very important for the Ebdanians. 60 armor, 269 health. Just all its stats are very, very good. It has a standard shot, a precursor that has a 30 bonus versus cavalry, or 45 if it's flaming, which is absolutely insane. So with the King's Fiona, very important unit. It will be deadly against enemy infantry, but it will not do too well against enemy cavalry because it has a sword. It does not have a spear. If this unit had a spear, oh man. Celtic Levy, you have your... There's nothing much to say about these spear units here. They are your standard spear units with and without spear wall. Nothing special about them at all. Meli Infantry, a very diverse selection of Meli Infantry here for the Ebdanians. Cheap Celtic Band, Freemen, Copycats, Celtic Warband, very cheap, very good armor for the price, decent offensive stats. The same for the Woodrunners, the same for Scottish Teachers. Pretty much the perfect Berserker unit in my opinion. I've covered those in the video about the Caledonians, so I'm not going to go too much into them. The Celts have a very similar roster, kind of like the Nordic factions, with a few differences. Celtic Warriors, Fiona, and again, the Fiona are more towards the defensive side. Very good, very, very, very good defensive infantry, because they are, of course, a DLC unit. The Celtic Warriors more an offensive unit. Then we get to the Galloglasses, or the Galloglaich, and Galloglasses are really foreign troops fighting, mostly Celto-Norse or Gaelo-Norse, and they would be fighting in a manner indistinguishable from the Vikings for the most part. They would be equipped like your Housecarls, like your Hirdmen. Here they are more Celtic than Gaelo-Celtic than anything. They have 57 armor, good health, very tanky, very reasonable for their price. Steady, encourage, and shield wall makes them very tough units to crack. The King's Warband as well, a step up from the Galloglasses. Now the King's Warband has... the King's Warband scares everyone, and they also have the shield wall. Very, very low charge bonus, but their defensive stats are absolutely insane for the price. When we get to the Axe Infantry, it's the same as for the Ebdanians. They have the same problems. They lose to similarly priced sword units for the most part. Celtic Berserkers can be nice, but it's hard to make them run amok or go berserk, because they will find it very hard to get the kills they need to do so. Celtic Bows, cheap, dirt cheap bowmen, can be useful for dealing with enemy cavalry. Not much point in upgrading to Celtic Archers. Celtic Crossbows, very cheap, very solid. Not solid in terms of durability, but solid in terms of being able to do a lot of damage. Now for the Skirmishers here, we have an interesting bunch. Rigdomna, 1,000. They cost 1,000, and well, they do have 45 bonus versus cavalry here. With their javelins, which is insane. The Celts do need an ability to take care of cavalry, so over here as well, 45 bonus versus cavalry. The Abdali Raiders, only a 15 bonus here, but a lot of ammunition, and it seems like these are supposed to be like the javelin faction. And when they've thrown their javelins, the Rigdamna are not entirely incapable in melee, just not great. So spending 1,000 on a javelin unit could prove risky, but it also could prove able to destroy any and all cavalry in seconds if they are foolish enough to venture close. And if you're able to, for example, stop the cavalry unit with a cheap unit, with a Celtic band, and then pour in the fire, that could be possible, but it's still way too much to spend on a javelin unit. You have the Mormar cavalry, cheap, decent, good against infantry, not great against cavalry due to lacking a spear. And for skirmishers, you have some very interesting skirmishers. Now, none of these skirmishers have precision shot, which limits their usefulness. These skirmishers can do a lot of damage with their 45 against cavalry. Getting them into position is the issue, because you're basically only going to get one volley off before you get hit in the face by enemy cavalry. So you need to stop the enemy cavalry somehow and then pour these guys in. But if the enemy cavalry charges into cheap infantry and you're able to do that, then the enemy cavalry will die very quickly. We have a dual purpose unit here in the form of the Chosen Raiders. The problem is though that they are light, and the fact that they are light severely limits their usefulness. Although their stats are decent, their low weight is a problem for them. And they are light and they only have a speed of 80, so not really impressive. Because these round shield raiders are slightly better dual purpose, because they have more health, they have a decent amount of armor, and they are heavy, so they will do better against infantry. So using the Ebdanians is going to come down to very sturdy mainline infantry, together with a supporting cast of fairly cheap skirmishers in the case of bows and crossbows. I don't see the place for these elite skirmishers. When you can get a crossbow for 200, I do not understand why you would ever bring a javelin unit for twice that. I mean, 2 crossbows are going to kill cavalry much faster than one of these Celtic brigands. And if you're able to use, again, if you're able to use the dual purpose cavalry to good effect, then you can deal with enemy cavalry, but lacking Parthian shot, it's going to be super difficult to deal with enemy cavalry, and that is the main disadvantage of all the Celtic factions, and they're going to have a hard time dealing with cavalry heavy factions, and due to their overall lack of good shields, they're going to have a tough time against enemy skirmishers as well. But they're definitely not I'm not going to rate them as shit tier factions because of the guerrilla deployment and because of dual purpose cavalry. Very cheap melee cavalry, so they're not completely shit, but they are just on the edge of shit. But I would rate them very high on the fun scale, because what other faction can you deploy on top of the opponent's army with? So there you have it. The Celtic factions. Vastly more fun in single player than multiplayer. And I'm going to end this video with the CA, please. CA, please separate multiplayer and single player balance. Strength and honor.